There's certain things that happen in horror films that, well, let's just say they're predictable. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Waste Time, the top 10 horror movie cliches that audiences are sick of. Number 10, when a cell phone just stops working. Oh hey, it's an inconvenient time. Conveniently, for the writing staff, the cell phone I could have used to do anything about my situation that might have saved me doesn't work anymore. Damn it, no signal. Yeah, you've heard that before, like in a million movies, despite the fact that cell phone coverage is better than it ever has been. I mean, have you seen the commercials for cell phones? Apparently there is no competition with who has the most signal. The signal's everywhere, man, except in your garage. If you have a garage, there's no cell phone signal in there, ever. Or maybe the phone ran out of batteries just at the right time, or they dropped the phone into a toilet or something just before. Oh dang, I just dropped the phone into that little stream. Oh no, it definitely doesn't work now. Like, just make them forget the cell phone. Like, make them not have a cell phone. Oops, left my cell phone at home. Reach into your pocket. Oh, there's no cell phone. Just something different. Number 9, quote unquote, based on a true story. Now here's the thing about based on a true story. That doesn't mean adapted point by point to mirror the events of a story that really happened. What it means is inspired by a true story. Now sometimes they say inspired by a true story when they want people to know that it's not actually fully true, but when they say based on a true story, they're trying to be ambiguous, so you're like, oh shit, is this real? Like The Strangers. In that film, some strangers knock on the door and then come in and basically terrorize a couple in a cabin. The true story it was based on is when the writer-director Brian Bertino was a kid, there were some people walking around his neighborhood and knocking on doors. If there was no one home, they would rob the house, which isn't actually a lot like the events of the movie at all, but it is a true event that the movie is based on. And if you believe it, it's kinda scary and cool up until you look into it and you're like, oh. Then you go knock on that director's door a little bit, be like, hey, it's a good thing you're home. Otherwise, I'd rob your house. Number 8, the bad guy that just won't die. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like Michael Myers or Freddy, or just basically any killer in a horror film. You shoot them, they fall off of something, they couldn't have survived, and yet they did. You're like, oh, seriously? I knew you wouldn't die. You should have died, but you didn't die. It's to the point where, like, if I actually killed a big hulking monster that was chasing me around with a machete, I wouldn't believe they were dead. Like, I have grown up knowing that the guy is possibly not dead and might kill you. And I'd wager if any of these movies are supposed to take place in the quote-unquote real world, they should maybe start acknowledging that and, make sure they're dead. Or, we could keep doing this stupid thing some more in every movie, including non-horror movies. Oh, this one is a really big cliche. Number 7, nobody listening to the warnings until it's too late. Like in Independence Day when Jeff Goldblum's character was the one who knew there was a serious problem. Or in any Jurassic Park movie where oh my god, it was him every time, wasn't it? Okay, so it wasn't him every time. There are a lot of movies where this happens that don't have Jeff Goldblum in them. I think a lot of these characters could avoid the phase where people are like, I don't believe you. If like the first time around they were just calm in their explanation, like don't grab anybody's shoulders and make really intense eye contact or anything like that. Just be like, hey, so I got a theory and some evidence that backs it up. It's a bit of a stab in the dark, but I think it might be real. I mean, framing it that way is going to be infinitely more productive than like bursting into a room, foaming at the mouth, grabbing people, and generally just like freaking out, all wide-eyed and strange. Just calm down. And in the horror genre, obviously it's worse than any Jeff Goldblum movie, because the person saying, you gotta believe me, is like, there's someone killing. And people are like, no, that wouldn't happen. Number 6 is sequels. I think I don't have to say too much to explain this one. I think when I say the word sequels, you probably went, yep, yep, that one, Like, we could talk all day about how sequels are usually not as good as the original, but if we're talking about the horror genre specifically, we're not just talking about a bad sequel, we're talking about a million bad sequels. Like, nobody even seems to care if a movie sequel is bad. They're like, write the next 5 sequels to this series. I don't give a shit. Quality doesn't matter to me. And then a big problem with the genre is that by nature, they aren't actually supposed to be entirely believable movies. So they use that as an excuse to drop people into the same situations a million times and see them not handle it right in the same way each time. Ugh, sequels. Number 5, when the protagonist falls down at the worst possible moment, or if the movie has multiple protagonists, the white woman falls down at the worst possible moment. It's just a cheap trick to heighten drama. It's like, really? Like, it would be entirely inaccurate to describe me as not a klutz. And I promise you, about 9 times out of 10 when this happens, I wouldn't have done it. And like I said, I am a horrible klutz. Number 4, teenagers played by 30-year-olds. I don't even really know what to say other than more teenagers in movies are 30-year-olds than not. You've seen it. I promise you've seen it. If you don't know that you've seen it, you are not paying attention, because that is the majority of teenage roles at this point. And it's really weird to see, because you're like, I know you're 30. I know you're not learning Spanish in high school at all. This is not believable to me. Would somebody please stop this 30-year-old from attending high school? I mean, I can't imagine them having good motives for this. Do the other teens believe? Oh, they're all 30-year-olds. Okay. All right, well, suspension of disbelief is over. Number 3, found footage. You know, when part of the movie or the entire movie is purported to be found footage and is presented as either a documentary or simply a video record of the event. I'm not saying there's no such thing as this being good, because there are movies where this is good, but they don't begin with the characters explaining exactly what's going on to the camera. Like, dialogue in a narrative film that's expositional in nature is fairly grating when they don't do anything to conceal that it's exposition. But it's so much more grating when the footage is supposed to feel real. The very last thing I do when I videotape my family and stuff is point the camera at myself and be like, yeah, that's Rick. That's Rory. About 3 weeks ago, they had an argument that sets the stage for what's about to happen here. They're still mad, still harboring some bad feelings towards each other. It makes sense what's about to happen. And then Rick and Rory argue, and Rory gets angry because I'm filming it and goes, hey, put that camera down! Yeah, real footage is never like that. Ever. Number 2, jump scares. And not good jump scares. They do exist, but jump scares for the sake of having a jump scare. Okay, you know what? It's possible to scare people without making a loud sound and having a very fast-moving object of some sort, oftentimes being a homicidal clown or something. This is called startling. I'm startled from a jump scare. If a lot of good groundwork has been laid, I may actually be startled and scared by a jump scare. But a really good, scary movie doesn't need to beat you over the head to scare you. And the fact that this is such an overused cliche kinda says something about how many good horror movies there are. Not enough. And finally, number 1 is dumb protagonists. Yes, it's fine to fill up the movie with dumb stereotypes. I get it. It kind of makes a horror movie a good experience. When you have the dumb jock, the guy who's a jerk to everyone, yeah, when he gets the axe to the back, you're kind of like, yeah, he deserved it. At least they won't have to deal with him if they make it through. But when the main character, the person you're supposed to empathize with, the one that you're supposed to see the story through the eyes of is dumb, it's like, oh, so you think I'm dumb? Like, I do know what I'm here for. I'm pretty aware of what's coming in this film. I'm not dumb. And while the character doesn't need to know what's coming, they need to be a little bit more like a real person. And sometimes when they make somebody who just is like, oh, I don't know what's going on, it's like, could you, like, just leave? Just leave. Like, you don't make any sense. Not that I didn't enjoy the movie. It's actually one of my favorite horror films of the last 10 years. But in Creep, like, basically the whole film is like how this guy basically said, you should probably leave through his actions. There's no good reason for him to have stayed anywhere near that guy. In fact, I would even go ahead and call it, oh yeah, dumb. And that's how a lot of protagonists end up being in horror, even in good horror. They make decisions that you never would make, that are totally uninformed, totally ignorant, just to have a plot. And it's like, enough. Are there any cliches in horror movies that drive you up the wall? It can be some from our list or even something you thought of yourself. Leave us a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a good time to do so. We upload brand new videos all the time, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Waste Time.